It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here. Chris Andrews is here. How's everyone doing today? It's a little bit different with the headphones on, isn't it?
It is a little different. I'm not sure I guess they're working. Yeah,
they're definitely working. Okay. They may be working too well. That may be the thing.
No. Well, I'm halfway deaf, so too much Led Zeppelin in my younger years.
Oh, man. Alex, how you doing today?
Doing good. Excited about the night. We've got a lot of college basketball. I don't know if I'd say a good NFL game, but a good game to bet and some good hockey games.
I know Chris is very excited for the 100-plus games in college basketball today. I know you're very excited for that.
I have a crew. That's what they get paid for. They're watching the college I'm watching the college football. We had a lot of college football moves today, a few pro moves. And tonight's game, it's a toggler, Jeff, back 3.5 line. I got sharp money, a couple 20-dime bets on both sides. So, as long as it doesn't come 3, we'll be fine.
I would like it to not come 3 either.
Okay.
A little bit on the money line on the Jets for me, 3.5 as well. So Jets by 3 is okay for all parties
I can
involved.
live with that.
That's okay. And just no Chargers by 3 on those togglers there. Chris, before we bring Matthew Furjanic in, of course, former head coach of Robert Morris. You're wearing the polo here today.
In honor of Matt.
Yeah.
I brought out the polo.
Matt also coached at Marist College as well, and a few stops as well at the D3 ranks, and as well 17 years at Polk State as well.
Yeah, he's one of those lifetime hoop guys. We see a lot of those out there, and I think Matt spent a lot of time in gyms and locker rooms and trying to instruct kids. And I know he also coached at my old high school.
Oh, that's actually the most important job of all, right, Chris?
Maybe not. But I don't know. So my old college and my old high school. I mean, what the heck? Okay. And I met Matt many years ago. We were trying to figure it out. I think I met him in an AAU tournament here in Las Vegas. But, he has a great history around Pittsburgh as a basketball guy.
We'll get to Matt in a few moments, but Chris, before we get into the college basketball swing here, pretty fun weekend across the board from a watching standpoint. College football Saturday, I would argue, was the most entertaining Saturday we've had all year. The NFL, there were a bunch of games that were completely non-competitive, but the close games were very entertaining yesterday. How was it behind the counter for both of the days?
Not great.
Not great.
Not great. No. But like I always say, never cry for the bookmaker. We'll be okay. We'll be fine. But it wasn't a great weekend. We were on the wrong side of a bunch of games, but there were some great games. And I put out a poll, like I like to do occasionally. Best story of the weekend. It was either Antonio Pierce coaching the Raiders and making them look like a legitimate football team. C.J. Stroud with one of the great rookie performances of all time. And then, of course, Josh Dobbs, which right now is winning the poll because that was one hell of a story. It really was.
All 3 really great stories, though. When I saw that on your Twitter, I was like, or on X, I was like, I love all 3 of those. It was tough for me to pick, but I went with Josh Dobbs for sure.
Yeah, most people going with Josh Dobbs, but I thought they were all 3 great.
Did you see the clip on Twitter or X or whatever Elon wants us to call it at this point of Josh Dobbs taking snaps from the Vikings center and basically just to do it so they understood his cadence?
Right.
It's one of the more amazing things you're ever going to see. Well, look, we saw Baker Mayfield do it to the Raiders last year on 2 days. Dobbs has been there the same amount of time. Jaron Hall, of course, left that game early after taking a monster hit and suffering a concussion, but that's Josh Dobbs' team now, and amazingly enough, the Minnesota Vikings, forget being alive in the NFC playoff picture, they are smack dab right in the middle of the darn thing in the NFC to get one of those wild cards.
Well, you look at the NFC, I mean, there's 4 teams that I think we could all say are pretty legit. Detroit, Dallas, Philly, and 49ers, but there's 7 spots going to go to the playoffs. I mean, who's those other 3? I don't know, but I know this every year somebody comes out of nowhere and finds themselves in the playoffs. And I don't know if it's going to be Minnesota or not. I guess it might be.
I would agree with you on the 4 that you said. We were required to put a team in from the NFC South.
Right.
Even though none of those teams looked the part, even though New Orleans is over 500.
Yeah.
You'd imagine Seattle's good enough to probably hold on to a 6. And then after that, it is it can be wide open for that 7th seed in the NFC.
And I remember the one year I want to say 10 years ago or so, maybe a little more, when Seattle got in with a losing record. They won their division. And I know all week, or all couple weeks, we were saying, I can't wait to bet against Seattle round one. I can't wait. We go in, New Orleans was a 10-point favorite at Seattle. And I remember coming up to game time, I switched. I went with Seattle. And, usually you switch, you go wrong. I said, I just have a feeling here. And Seattle, of course, beat them. That was the Marshawn Lynch game with sounded like an earthquake in Seattle.
The Beastquake.
And we might see something like that again this year. You never know.
No, it's more than possible. Again, it really does. Other than last year's Tampa team, which was obviously broken and we just didn't want to acknowledge it, those teams that usually finish under 500 and sneak in, win that first playoff game. We saw with Carolina as well a few years later. Granted, they faced Ryan Lindley in that playoff game, so not that impressive. But, hey, a playoff win is a playoff win. All right, let's bring him in. The former coach of Robert Morris and Marist College, Matt Furjanic, with us right now. Matt, thanks for hopping on with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's exciting to be on here. I used to stay at the South Point every year when I came out to the Vegas tournaments.
Matt,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, Matt, we got you. It's
okay.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you on, and we're happy.
I got you now.
We're happy to have you on here at Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Again, Matt, for Chris Andrews today. Let's get a shot of Chris on there.
Yeah.
Chris Andrews.
Hey, Matt, I'm wearing my Colonial shirt in honor of you.
I would have worn mine. If I knew you were wearing yours.
I'd have got a Woody High shirt too, Matt, but I didn't have one of those. So figured I'd honor you with my Robert Morris shirt.
Well, to give you a little bit of background on that, there were 11 different communities that merged to form one high school, and Chris and I were from two of the communities. So it was a very large district at one time in the 80s in Pennsylvania through the 90s, and football power. And of course, Jason Taylor was a graduate of Woodland Hills High School. He played for me basketball. So we have a lot of sports in our background between Billy Knight of Braddock, and we can name just a ton of players between Chris and I who all came from the area.
Matt, just before we I'll kick it over to Chris in a second here. Just as we enter this college basketball season today, in this day and age, it kind of just sneaks up on us. But, of course, being a former head coach and a few stops along the way, just how excited are you going into yet another college basketball season that, Matt, it looks like it is a wide open race this year to getting us to the Final Four all the way in April?
Well, no one knows who the best teams are because so many players with the NIL haven't played with each other. So you don't know what the chemistry is going to be. You don't know what the culture of a team is going to be. And so many coaches go in with, great expectations, but then all of a sudden, boom, something can go off and, they get out of whack. And next thing you know, a team you might think is going to be, North Carolina went through it last year, I believe. You thought they were going to be in the Final Four, and then they struggled. So you just never know with the NIL now that how teams are going to be. It's hard to predict.
Matt, I want to go back and got a lot of kids here that I'm not sure were even born yet, but we're going to talk about two of your NCAA teams. I want to talk about the second one first. You won a first round game as a 12 seed. And then you play, and who was that against, Matt? I can't remember back that far.
Purdue. We played
No.
Purdue.
That was the other game after you won the first one.
Oh, Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern. Okay.
We played in Dayton, Ohio.
Then, and these guys aren't going to remember, but that great Russell Cross Purdue team, you guys were a 12 seed. And I remember sitting there and watching. I said, "Can we win this game? Can we do this?" We took them all the way to the wire. And of course, you lose by 2. But you're going to tell a story about the team the year before. But what are your remembrances of that team in '83?
It was, it was the same team back, except for one or two recruits. We didn't lose one player off that '82 team, so everyone was excited, and we'll get into that story. But we won our conference tournament again, and we won the conference also regular season outright. So we went in and we played Georgia Southern in Dayton, and back then there were only 48 teams in the NCAA, so we were 4 teams playing to get into the 48-team bracket. And when we beat them, we got an early flight. It was a Tuesday night, early flight the next morning to Tampa. Got a chance to relax a little bit. We really didn't practice that day because with the game the night before and traveling, with the stopover in Atlanta. And then we had a shoot around the next day. And then we, our guys played great against Purdue. We didn't want to run with them. I learned that from Coach Knight the year before. And we just wanted to keep it a half-court game, and we had them. We tied the game with a little under a minute left, and we said, well, if we can just still stick with our zone so we won't let Russell Cross get the ball, we'll take a chance when hopefully they take a desperation three-pointer. And next thing you know, with about 4 seconds left, Steve Reed hit about a 28-footer. Oh. And we just, our hearts just sank. So we had a final shot, but it was about a half-court shot. But, if he missed that, could have gone into overtime, and who knows what would have happened. So we're very proud of the guys. They were a great group. 2 years in a row, they were, we didn't have one letdown by those guys. They just kept battling.
Well, that was, I remember that game well, and I just rooted my heart out for him. So. But tell us about the year before, Matt, because that you have a good, Coach Knight passed away just a couple of days ago, and I know you had a little bit of an experience with Coach Knight. Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we made our first NCAA tournament. It was the 6th year of the program. We were the only school to jump from NJCAA junior college to Division I. And Robert Morris did that in 1977 season. So, we battled. I was the second coach of the program. It was my 3rd year. And we won our championship game at Long Island, our conference championship game. So we were seeded then. It was a 48-team field, and we were seeded to play Indiana and Nashville. So we were very excited. The headlines were Bobby Knight versus Bobby Who. So we went through it. We went through about 10 days of just being in the USA Today, and I remember being on TV, some shows, a couple shows in the morning, and it was just so exciting for all of us. We were just in a whirlwind for the whole week. So we go into the game, we get our butts kicked. We got him kicked pretty bad. It was about a 30-point game, like 90 to 60 something. And after the game, Coach Knight walked off the court with me, and he said, Coach, can I just talk to you for a few minutes? I said, sure. He said, first of all, back then there were a lot of questions. Why should the lower Division I teams be in the tournament? He said, don't ever let anyone tell you didn't belong. You belonged in this tournament. You won your conference tournament, and that's the way the rules are. So always be proud. Second, prepare better if you get to the tournament next year. Prepare. You came into this game unprepared, and I can tell you that. And I learned a huge lesson there. And then he said, can I come in and talk to your players after the game? And I said, sure, Coach Knight. We thought it'd be honored. So he came in the locker room after he did his interview and I did mine. And he came in, he talked to the players. He told them how proud he was to see a young team, mostly sophomores, do so well through the season. But he also told them, along with me, that for us to set a goal to win next year our conference tournament, get in the NCAA again. And when we get in, the lesson we should remember is not just to be happy we're in the tournament, but to win. Prepare for the team like you're preparing for any team in your conference. So we took that to heart, and that was kind of a rallying cry the whole offseason. Even next year, guys would be in the locker room and would win a big game, and they would go, night, 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 night. And they just had that feeling about them. They were special because Coach Knight came in to talk to them. And then, after the game also, he said, listen, if I can do anything for you, let me know. So I saw him at the convention, the coaches convention that year in New Orleans. And I went up to him and I said, Coach, how you doing? He said, Coach, how are you doing? Everyone called each other Coach back then. So he said, listen, I said, you know what? I have something that if you could think about, and I don't know how to approach you with this. He says, well, what is it? I said, what I'd like to do is I see you have medalist one-man basketball clinics. And where, back then it was a coach coming, Coach Knight, Coach Smith, a few others will do a 2-day clinic by themselves at about 2 sites in the spring and the fall. And back then we had the Nike clinics coming to Pittsburgh every year, the Nike basketball clinics. So I said, would you consider coming to Pittsburgh in our school? And that would be a big jump for us to have you come and do a one-man clinic. He said, yeah, I'd love to. So he gave me the name. He introduced me actually to the person that in charge of medalists. It was at the the coaches convention, and we hooked up a conversation. And next thing you know, that summer we got a date for the following spring. They put it out, and you remember John Jay Gym. Our gym only sat about 500.
Mm-hmm.
It was when 5-star camp was held at our school every summer, they put 450 campers in the stands, and there wouldn't be many seats left. So we medalists, along with Robert Morris, we got about 500 coaches to come to the school, not only all local, but throughout the tri-state area, some farther than that. And my job was to be around him for 2 days nonstop, which was, I have a couple stories about that. I mean, one thing for lunch, all we wanted was a banana milkshake on Saturday between the sessions.
He's a
Morning
cheap date,
session,
I guess, huh?
yeah, banana milkshake in the afternoon session. But it was a huge boost for our program. And of course, a few times after that, I'd see him and we'd talk. But we were so gracious that he set that up personally through medalists that it just took Robert Morris another step, because we were a new program. And back then it wasn't all the social media and publicity like it is today. So getting him to come in like that, and how gracious he was afterwards in the locker room with our players, he educated them. He was teaching. He's always teaching. Everything he ever did, he was always teaching, and that's what I loved about him. Is he was one of the greatest educators I've ever known. But that just gave us such a boost, and we were thankful to him for that. It was a rallying cry the following year, and afterwards, I did write him a letter, and he wrote me a nice letter back when I said, "Well, Coach, we did prepare this year," and he said, "Well, you should. I was hoping you knocked off Purdue."
I'm sure he did, right? How about that for a coincidence?
But he did get that in there. Yeah, he did get that in there. So,
well, man, that's a great story.
Also,
I'm sorry,
trivia, Chris. I saw, one of the Indiana players from 1981 this past year at Final Four, and I asked him. I says, "After you won the championship in 1981, who was Indiana's first NCAA tournament game?" And he's thinking. I said, "It's against Robert Morris." So that's a little trivia question in there too on the following year, opening game.
Very good. Coach, I'm going to just ask: did you replace Gus Kropp?
No, there was Gus Kropp was a legend in Pittsburgh.
A legend in Pittsburgh because we have a lot of Pittsburgh listeners, but they might not remember Gus like you and I do.
Yeah, well, Gus was. I mean, I have a great story about Gus if we have time, but
we got
Gus
a few minutes, so we got to wrap it up. But go ahead, Coach.
I'll quick. Okay, Gus was a legend, and the year before we were 7-19 my first year, and then 9-18 my second year. Well, going to the end of the season, there was rumors I was going to get fired. We beat Penn State. We upset Penn State at Penn State. The next morning, I come into work. There's a fire extinguisher in my chair, and Gus said, "You're now fireproof." That was my second year. And the third year, we made the NCAA. So, but Tom Warwick was the coach for 3 years from 1976 through 76 through the end of the 79 season. Then I replaced him.
Now I remember that name now that you mentioned it. Like I said, we got a lot of Pittsburgh people. And Gus Kropp, these guys don't know. They weren't even born till this millennium, Matt. So we're educating these guys. But we have a great basketball tradition in Pittsburgh.
Thing, Chris. Yeah, I got to add one more thing, okay? We were a nobody school, and all of a sudden, Sonny Vaccaro, you know how Sonny is. Sonny,
oh, yeah.
Can we get shoes? We get shoes off you. So in the summer of 81, near the summer of 81, I was ready to, get shoes from another company. Of course, Sonny calls from the airport. "Matt, you're calling me." I said, "Yes, Sonny. I want to know, can I get shoes? Can we get a Nike contract?" He put us on a Nike contract at Robert Morris, one of the smallest schools, along with a few HBCU schools. So here we are. We're a Nike school, and of course, we just shot that out to every recruit. We had Nike all over our gym when 5-star came into town. So I have to say kudos to Sonny Vaccaro also.
Well, that's great. We know Sonny well, and of course, we work with Jimmy here, and another great Pittsburgh connection. Matt, I can't thank you enough for being on, and that's great about Coach Knight because really he was one of those guys that a lot of people loved him, a lot of people didn't. Yeah. But you seem to have had a great relationship with him and really gleaned a lot from that relationship, and that's fantastic that he's remembered in that way by you. So,
thank you, Chris, very much.
Okay, all right, guys. I was ready to call you Gus. Sorry. I think Gus is long gone now. But Matt, thanks a lot, Matt. And as the season goes on, maybe we'd like to have you on again. For sure. They're giving me the thumbs up. Yeah, we'd love to hear you a little later on in the college basketball season to get your thoughts. And we'll stay in touch, my friend. It's great seeing you again.
Great seeing you, and I love it, and I can't wait for the game to start tonight.
Okay.
I'm going right to my TV.
All right, Matt. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
All right, great stuff there. I love that Coach Knight story, and
Yeah.
you honestly on your Twitter, Chris, put it perfectly. Coach Knight was a complicated person.
Yeah.
He was a complicated person, and there was some bad, there was some really good, though, from Coach Knight throughout his life, and stories like that. It just again, people are complicated.
They are.
People are complicated.
I'm going to go off track here a little bit. Probably, like my wife will tell you, like, what's the celebrity death that really has touched your heart? Like John Lennon. And my wife, she doesn't like John Lennon for the way he treated his wife, his kids. And I said, I can't argue with any of that. But people are complex. That nobody's all good. There's a few people that are all bad, but there's nobody that's all good. And I think I said it. Coach Knight is one of those. There's plenty of people that have a legitimate beef with Coach Knight, but there's people like Matt and many, many others who love them too. So you just have to judge for yourself.
Absolutely, Chris.
Hey,
I'll let you go back to
I'm
work.
going to let you guys go to work too.
Yeah.
So I got a football game and about 3,000 college games I'm looking at.
I think you undercut it on the 3,000. I think it's actually 7,000.
Well, if you add in money lines and half times and totals, you're probably right.
Yeah. Chris, pleasure as always. Big thanks as well.
See you guys.
To Coach Matt Furjanic as well for hopping on with us. And we will have him back through the season. Alex and I preview Monday Night Football, though, next. Chargers and Jets, a surprisingly big game in the AFC playoff picture. We break it down next. Sports by the Book.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu, plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. That's us. That's also us. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Happy to be with you. Big shouts to Chris Andrews, Matt Furjanic as well. Coach Matt Furjanic for joining us at the top of the show. All I'm going to say is for college hoops-wise, because there's a lot of games today, you and I are going to keep track of my leans all year in college basketball, and we're going to see how they do. There's a list of about 10 today that were leans. You have them all down. I have them all on my phone. We're going to see how they do. Right now in this slate that's upcoming, I did bet over in UConn and Northern Arizona. The Lumberjacks, right? That's the Lumberjacks in Northern Arizona. against UConn. And then I might take a piece of Samford, who just went to 20.5 in one book. So
For as long as I've known you, I'm feeling pretty confident about your lean.
that's not. The leans, yes. Oh, yes, yes. The ones I don't bet are definitely going to win. There's not even a debate on that. It's just a matter of can the ones I actually do bet actually get home here tonight in college hoops. We're doing this as we go here. We get the app going and all that fun stuff as well. All right, forget college hoops for a minute, Alex. Let's go to the NFL. With the results that happened yesterday, this is a fairly important game in the AFC tonight, where the 3-4 Los Angeles Chargers travel cross country to take on the 4-3 New York Jets tonight at MetLife Stadium. Behind us is the only 3.5 remaining in the market. Chargers 3.5 behind us. Everyone else has 3 minus 20. So a juice 3 on the Chargers or even money on the Jets at +3. Totals at 41. A lot of contrast here in this game. You have the league's worst passing defense in the Chargers going against a team that can't really pass because Zach Wilson has been very pedestrian, to put it politely. You also have, on the other side, the Chargers, when they're right, an elite offense, going against one of the 3 best defenses in the National Football League that has made guys like Allen, Hurts, Mahomes look pretty pedestrian in games earlier this year. I took 3.5. I also took the Jets on the money line as well. I think this is one of those games where the Jet defense is going to be the best unit on the field in this game. And when push comes to shove, even though I have my questions about the Jets coaching staff, it's still better than what the Chargers are throwing out there coaching staff-wise. I think the Jets win this game, move to 5-3, and miraculously enough, go ahead of the Buffalo Bills for more than just 24 hours.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills they're looking like it's panic time for them. I'm with you. You made some really great points. I grabbed the 3.5, about a half a unit, plus 3.5 for the Jets. But let's start right there. You said it. Best unit on the field. I completely agree with you. It's the Jets defense, and they say defense wins games here. To go back to your point, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes combined to throw for just 439 yards with 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions on those primetime games against the Jets. So I do think they can get it done. It's a little surprising. The Chargers are favorites in this game, despite being 3-4 and 2-4-1 ATS. So I thought there was definitely value with the 3.5. And Chris said it. I mean, it's been going back and forth. People are laying the 3, taking the 3.5, right?
I don't always love going the look-ahead angle with these lines because it can get you into trouble. Got some into trouble last night. Sorry, Alex, with that one with the Bills and the Bengals, where the look-ahead was Buffalo favored, flipped to Cincinnati being favored, and the move was correct. The look-ahead on this was Chargers and Jets were either a pick or Chargers won. And now we've zoomed because the Chargers beat up a bad Bears team last week, and the Jets were lucky to get out of there with a win against a horrible Giants team, that I think we overreacted a little too much. Again, I don't always buy that theory. I just sometimes matchups make that more necessary than that. And that's why I liked Cincinnati last night. I thought Buffalo matches up terribly with them. And even though Cincinnati did nothing in the second half, what they did in the first half was more than enough. I don't understand why this has moved that much. Now, am I saying the Chargers can't cover this game? Of course I'm not saying that. It's a National Football League game. We know nothing in the grand scheme of things. So anything is in play here. But I do think when we're looking back at this on Thursday, that the Jets are going to win a low-scoring game. I also like this game under 41 as well.
Yes.
I don't think any game with the Jets should be totaled in the 40s right now with the way that everything has gone for them. So underdog, that's where I'm sitting tonight.
And you make a good point. So the 3 teams that the Chargers have beaten is the Bears with Tyson Bagent.
Not good.
The Raiders when they were going
that was O'Connell's first career start also.
Yes,
Not good.
it was, and they barely covered in that game. And then the Vikings before they got hot when they were struggling early on in the year. So as much as the Jets have struggled offensively, I mean, they're pretty bottom 5 in most categories, only averaging 18 points a game. But this Chargers defense is below average as well, giving up 24 points per game. And they're not good against the pass, as you mentioned, allowing 7.8 yards per pass attempt. So another angle I kind of like here is Breece Hall. I think you might see him get a lot of catches, and he is averaging 5.7 yards per carry. And the Chargers, they are giving up the second most receiving yards to opposing running backs, 54.9 per game. So I think he has a big game in this one. I feel pretty good with the points. I don't mind your money line, but, after yesterday with my sides, I feel good half a unit on this plus 3.5.
Yeah, you would expect at some point that Hall's going to have a bust-out performance all the way through for a whole 60. He had the 50-yard touchdown last week, which was legitimately a dump-off pass that he broke for a touchdown. Had the big run against Denver for a touchdown as well. If the Jets are going to win tonight, I expect a big game from Hall. And again, we're dealing with Zach Wilson here. Anything's in play. We have not seen Zach Wilson with the multiple turnover games since week 2, though. So that is always a concern. When is that blow-up coming? By the way, like I said, in the AFC, if we can go to the standings real quick across the board here, I mean, look, in the AFC side of things, this is a jumbled mess right now in the AFC. Of course, you have the division leaders right now, all of them, except for Miami with 2 losses. Kansas City with the win in Germany pushed to 7-2. Baltimore, dominant at home again yesterday. A blowout victory and a no-sweat one at that against Seattle to move to 7-2. Jacksonville, they sat back, had their pina coladas this week. They're 6-2. They're in great shape. Looking at the AFC East, this is where this division gets itself a little bit crazy here, where Miami, 6-0 against under 500 teams, 0-3 against over 500 teams. The Jets are still sitting there with Aaron Rodgers playing 4 snaps at 4-3. We've already talked about Buffalo. The Bills' schedule, if they don't win the next 2 games where they host Denver and the Jets, they're done. It's over. They're missing the playoffs if they don't win those next 2 games. And even if they win those next 2 games, it's still not a gimme that they get into the postseason. And then, of course, as you saw, the AFC North is all over 500. They're all 2 games over 500. The Bengals got the 5-3 last night. The Browns, poor Clayton Tune, just no chance whatsoever in that game yesterday against the Browns. Kyler Murray, if he doesn't have a setback this week, is going to start, according to what Jonathan Gannon said earlier today. They get Atlanta, who had their ridiculous loss to Minnesota. And then the Steelers, who just still win games despite getting dominated on the box score and having a negative 30-point differential through 8 games. So this is lining up to be an ultra-competitive run to the finish here for all of those, honestly, all those wild card slots, 5 through 7, all up for grabs. Really, the only team at this moment that I say, you know what, they're clearly getting in is Kansas City, because I don't think the teams in the division are capable behind them. I'm very close to putting Jacksonville in that scenario as well, but Houston already beat them once, and they get them again in Houston later in the year. So crazy things happen all the time in this league. You never know. C.J. Stroud with the most passing yards by a rookie quarterback ever in a 39-37 win yesterday. And Alex, again, this is a complicated playoff picture, as we could say, with going to the back end of the season after tonight's game.
And I don't know if everybody would agree with this, but I would say there is definitely a coaching edge with the Jets over the Chargers.
I think there is, yes.
So I think we see the defense really keep them in this game. And like you mentioned, it's very important to both sides. And the Chargers, I mean, they're balancing with the Raiders right now to keep that second spot. But I don't know. We shall see. But I am with you tonight on your team for the Jets.
The matchup of Staley's defense against Hackett's offense is going to be something else. If there are weakness points in the coaching staff on both staffs, it's Staley on a head coach on the Chargers side, and it's Hackett on the Jets side. We'll go through there. All right.
What do you think about Justin Herbert throw an interception?
Are we getting plus money?
Yes.
How good?
Even money.
Probably okay. Wish we were getting a little bit better of a price than that. Herbert was excellent last week. Granted, that was against a really bad defense and with the Bears. I wish we were getting a little bit better than that. But I wouldn't want to take the no side of that if you're laying $1.20 on that side.
Agreed.
So we'll see. We'll see. Could be both sides throwing picks tonight in the Meadowlands. All right, going to this upcoming week in the NFL. Alex, I'm going to let you steer the boat here. as we get into this week. It starts off with as bad of a game that we are going to see all year, and it's a single window game in Carolina and Chicago. This week, marquee games include Cleveland and Baltimore. Baltimore is a 6-point favorite right now at home. They, of course, took the first matchup between the two teams, but DTR played that game. That was the game where we thought Watson was going to play, and then an hour and a half before kick, it's like, oh, yeah, he's not playing. Great. Thanks for telling us that so close to kickoff. Those Cleveland bets were DOA. Jacksonville and San Francisco, a really good game down in Duval, where both teams coming off a bye. Niners and losers of 3 in a row. Only a field goal in that game against Jacksonville. That a little bit surprised that came in so light, but that's a different one for a different time. And then Detroit and the Chargers right now, 1.5. Who knows? That number can change depending on what we see out of the Chargers tonight, Alex.
I think we see a really good defensive battle here with the Browns and Ravens. Although, I mean, we kind of thought Seattle's defense could contain them a little bit, and they definitely could not. So the Ravens are looking really good right now. I know a lot of people have them as the best team in the league. I don't know if I'm quite there yet with them, but that should be a really good game. You are right. The other two as well.
Anything on that right now? San Francisco 3.
I do think that is a little low.
Yeah. It's interesting because part of the reason, just to go on Jacksonville for a second here, where before the year, Alex, I thought Jacksonville to get the number 1 seed in the AFC was a good long shot bet because the way their schedule broke. Now, they missed a really big opportunity in week 2 when they had Kansas City in their building and they lost that game 17-9. And then they flipped around and looked awful against Houston the following week and lost that game. But the one thing with Jacksonville's schedule this year, that part of the reason that I like them, all their difficult games are either in Jacksonville or in London. They beat Buffalo in London instead of having to play that game in Buffalo, which was a huge advantage for Jacksonville that game was in London. And they're, other than the game at Cleveland, which is a genuine potential matchup of two playoff teams, San Francisco, Cincinnati, and Baltimore all travel to Jacksonville in the back end of this season. If there is a dark horse in the AFC, and again, I don't think Kansas City's just losing 2 games this year. I don't think Baltimore just losing 2 games this year. I think 13-4 might be good enough this year to get the 1 seed in the AFC. Jacksonville beats Baltimore, heads up. Jacksonville beats Cincinnati, heads up. A 1 seed is not out of the question. Now, I don't know if they're good enough to win back-to-back playoff games, even if they're at home. But again, this is a league where this AFC feels very much wide open with just how the top teams, other than Baltimore when they played at home, have looked very vulnerable this year.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? The Jaguars and the Bengals repeated exactly what they did last year. They started really slow. Jacksonville was 1-2 in their first 3 games, and then they've just gone on a run. They've won 5 in a row. So I don't know if it just takes a little time, but they're definitely clicking at the right time. And I think a lot of people do have them rated pretty high, and that is the respect they're getting by just being a 3-point dog to the San Francisco 49ers, who looked like the absolute best team in the league to start the season.
Yeah, I know it's only Monday. I know it's only Monday for college football as well. Is there anything in this upcoming week where, on my list this week, I'll just pull mine up. See, the phone always has all, Alex. That's all I can tell you. This week for college football, there is a game tomorrow that I actually already bet.
Okay.
I took Ohio. I laid it with Ohio against Buffalo. I know Buffalo didn't get there last week against Toledo. This is a game where Ohio, I think, inflicts their will on the defensive side of the ball, and they just really got outplayed by Miami of Ohio last week.
Who had their backup quarterback, right? And they should have won that game. So this should be a get-right spot for Ohio. I do agree with you there. So I updated all my numbers. I haven't actually punched in for this week coming up for what I made the lines, but I don't hate that at all with Ohio there. Let me go ahead and look down, see if I see any that stand out, though.
Other ones I will say as well, Miami of Ohio is up to 18 on Wednesday against Akron. I thought when that opened at 16.5, that's good. Now that we're through 17, probably not so much anymore on that one. But don't go rushing to the window and betting Akron in that game now that you're getting a better number. But just going through the week, your Rebels, by the way, at home on Friday night against Wyoming, that has moved from 4.5 to 4 and even 3.5 at some shops. Rebels were laying it at 4.5. I actually liked Wyoming, 4.5, not 3.5 now. Probably still all right. That has the feeling of a field goal game one way or another on Friday night just down the road from us at Allegiant.
But you know what? If people actually like UNLV, I think this may be the best number they're going to get. And just like we saw last week,
Late steam
on the Rebels. So that could get back up to 4.5. I like the Rebels here. I really do. Their last game was very impressive over New Mexico. And I know it's New Mexico, but they've just been playing so good. And, Barry Odom really has instilled a whole different culture there. And they believe that they're winners. So I think they could win this game by a touchdown. I'll have to see what I actually make it and what my difference is between UNLV and Wyoming. But I've been a little bit down on Wyoming as of late, which came back to bite me a week or two ago. But we'll see. This should be a really good game Friday night.
All right, let's go to the NBA tonight because you have a play. I will tell you this, even though it's a full NBA card, there was absolutely nothing that even approached possibility of being a bet for me tonight in the association. So you're carrying the water for the show today on the NBA, Alex.
All right, one that really stood out to me. So I am smart enough to know how much I can handle, and right now I have college football, NFL, and hockey. So that's my limit right now. But that doesn't mean I can't bet some NBA and college basketball, which I will dive into more and more. I actually am using Kenny White's power ratings for these, but he had a big difference on a total, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers and the New York Knicks. So I took under 22-24.
Clippers Knicks tonight.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Clippers and the New York Knicks. I took under 224.5. So the Knicks, very good defensive team, and their pace is a lot slower than the average NBA team. Clippers, we'll see Harden, right, with them. And
yep, Harden makes his debut tonight.
And sometimes that takes a little bit for their continuity to get together. So I like this under here. I think it's a slower paced game, under 224.5. I asked you about it before the show, before we were on, and you had no interest.
No, thank you. That's down to 223.5 in most places now as well. So they're moving with you on that. The only thing that was remotely close for me tonight was laying 6 with the Nuggets at home against New Orleans, but we're not bothering. We're gonna avoid the NBA, or at least for me at all costs.
You have a big football game to watch.
I'll be a little preoccupied.
Yes.
That is for sure. I do want to ask you one last question before our guy Vinny Magliulo comes in. We have 4 NHL games tonight.
Yes.
Anything on those? Panthers hosting the Jackets. Leafs hosting the Lightning. Good game there. Excellent game in Dallas. Dallas hosting Boston. And then the Canucks, who we'll get to one other question I have on the Sharks. Took advantage of the Sharks last week. Host Edmonton tonight. But anything on those 4 that are going today? So
I love Florida, but that's just too much. It's like they're minus 225, I believe.
Yeah, minus 230 now.
Yeah, so that's a little too much, but I do like them in that spot. You're right, Tampa Bay, Toronto, great game. Toronto actually won the first game, and you know how I like to track these revenge factors. Tampa Bay had the revenge. Toronto finally got over that hump and won in the first round last year of the playoffs. I don't have a strong feel on this one. Maple Leafs have lost 4 in a row. Very unlike them. They've played really good teams. I mean, the Bruins, the Sabres, and even the Predators. But that scares me a little bit here against Tampa Bay, who is looking much better. They haven't had their starting goalie all season long, and now they're starting to improve. I love this Boston-Dallas game. I am excited to watch this. Definitely 2 of the top teams in the top 5 teams in the league. I can't help but put a little bit, half a unit on Boston plus money anytime you can get them. It's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. Once that flipped, that Germany game, it's like if you're not taking points with Patrick Mahomes, you're kind of crazy, right? And I was slapping myself later in the day for not doing that. Boston plus money, I love it here. Swayman gets the start, and I like what the Bruins are doing. They are rotating their 2 goalies every game. That just shows you how much trust they have in both of them. They're not putting Omar in when it's the big games, It's just how the rotation is going. So I like that he's actually undefeated this year. Swayman is 5-0, 1.38 goals against average. Going up against a very good Dallas team and a great goaltender in that side, but should be a good game. Last game, high-scoring game right here. Oilers Canucks. I would have liked over 6.5. I missed that. Now it's at 7, and I still even lean to it a little bit, but 7 is a lot when it comes down to it.
I just want to ask about the Sharks, who, again, by the way, Bruins and Golden Knights finally suffered their first regulation losses over the weekend. Boston loses to Detroit. The Ducks beat the Knights last night. Anaheim actually playing some good hockey. Winners of 6 in a row after a rough start to the year for the Ducks. But
the Ducks got the Knights at a good spot. They coming off the game against the Avalanche, who they won 7-0, then had to travel to Anaheim. But yes.
How do we handle the Sharks? Because they gave up 10 goals in back-to-back games. We are 11 games into the season. Okay, 11 games in for the Sharks. They're 0-10-1. They've only scored 12 goals and they've given up 55. How do we handle a team that badly? Like, when do the prices start getting so out of whack that you can take a shot at it? But again, minus 43 in 11 games is unheard of.
Yes, it really is. I don't know that they have the worst rating that I've had since I've started doing NHL. So I don't have that answer for you, Jeff. Maybe Vinny can help us when he comes in here, but
maybe he can. His laptop's on the desk already. Vinny Magliulo joins us to wrap the show up, keeping us up to date on everything here on Sports by the Book.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3-2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Final segment for us here at Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here, and now Vinny Magliulo in the flesh, in the studio. Hello.
Up? Jeffrey, Alex, good to be with you. How's everything?
No complaints.
I was listening to your hockey segment, and Alex hit on a point, and you were asking about the Sharks. Look, at some point, when do you grab them? Probably when they're plus on the puck line, right? So I think they've got a game coming up against the Golden Knights. I don't think I want plus against VGK. Well, not after yesterday, right? Where the Knights, Alex, you hit a key point that the Knights. It was a great spot for the Ducks yesterday. The Knights, by the way, the Knights have played more games than anybody in hockey right now, in the NHL right now. A very busy schedule, big emotional win against one of the other strong teams in the Western Conference in Colorado the night before. They get down to Anaheim. Anaheim was off since Wednesday and had won 5 straight and playing really some pretty good hockey. And actually, one of along with the Knights, one of the better teams in the third period. Of course, they took over the third period yesterday. Took advantage of some Knights turnovers. Looked like the Knights kind of ran out of gas. Half of their top 6 defenders did not play yesterday. And again, no excuses. Look, they had a 2-0 lead going into the third period yesterday. But credit the Ducks and Gibson, who was sensational in net yesterday.
And you're right, they are a good third period team, the Ducks. I went to the game on Saturday, watched them play against the Avalanche. I grabbed under 6.5 Friday night, woke up Saturday, moved down to 6. I'm like, perfect, I got the best number. I'm just sitting in the stands cheering for the Knights to go over my total by themselves, but I couldn't even be mad. They looked fantastic. I mean, their no-look passes to each other, shot it right in the net. They're very good hockey team.
No, they're good, strong.
Edmonton goes to San Jose on Thursday.
Edmonton to San Jose on Thursday.
Edmonton goes to San Jose on Thursday. Can we forget the prices on the money line? Could we see an 8 on that total with how bad the goaltending is for Edmonton?
On top for both teams.
On top of, of course. That goes without saying.
You might see
we could see an 8 on Thursday. As ridiculous as that sounds.
I mean, it's not in the case of, look, the Sharks are the Sharks, right? We know what's happening there, what's not happening, right? They gave up 20 goals in 2 games last week. The thing about Edmonton is it's not just the goaltending; it's the defending.
That's everything right now. Yeah,
I mean, look, we know that their offense is potent, but their blue line is not good. And now at some point you have to figure they're going to turn things around. But there's some good young teams in the NHL. When you look in the East, you look at Buffalo, you look at Detroit. These are rebuilding teams. You look at Vancouver, and again, we talked about the Ducks and how well they're playing. The Kings, who come to T-Mobile, I think it's Wednesday night against the Knights, have retooled. They got to have a nice balance of a couple of veterans and some young players as well. So. Yeah, there's some good younger teams out there, Alex.
So I do have a question for you, Vinny, because I was looking at futures for NHL, and Edmonton, they still have the 5th best odds to win the Western Conference, and that is because of that, right? If you move too high.
Great question. Great point, too. Look, you can't overreact to it. We're still in, the first part of the season. Now, there's the whole... Listen, if whoever's in a playoff position around Thanksgiving has got a 75% chance of making the playoffs, right? I wouldn't discount Edmonton just yet because there's so much offensive firepower there. And the fact of the matter is there was play on them since last spring with the Stanley Cup playoffs and things like that. So, you just can't but you can't overreact, but you still have to follow, and you have to say, well, listen, what's Toronto is a classic example, right? Every year, everybody keeps waiting for Toronto. By the way, they played tonight. It's a pretty good game between them and Tampa. Probably the Bruins and the Stars is another good game, right? So
both of those, yes.
Yeah. So you can't overreact, but I'll tell you, you'll start seeing some swings. I think in the futures, Alex. The end of this month, so between Thanksgiving and the early part of December for sure. But also, let me just say one thing. So when the Blues won the Cup, what was it? 6 years ago, right? That
was 2019.
Yeah. So all right, five.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah.
So they had the worst record. They were in last place. They came to T-Mobile in January. They had the worst record in the NHL, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people played them at like 300. There
was the one at the Caesars book at Paris where it was 250 to 1 that ended up bringing in over 500K because of it.
I was at I had to go to an event that night, and there were people in there and they were from
St. Louis.
St. Louis. They were in town because I think they played the Golden Knights.
They did, yeah.
And people were just, we'll play him. By the way, Barbashev and Petrangelo were both.
Petrangelo was the captain of that team in 2019. Yep.
So look, but you still, when you look at history and the Thanksgiving factor, I think that comes into play.
Well, they're 2-7-1. The Oilers are. So I was looking on there thinking, oh, is this a good buy time? And then they're plus 850, and I'm like, I don't know if that's enough right now for that record and how they are looking.
That's for the Western 850 for the
850
Western.
For the Western. Yes, not to win it all.
Right.
All right, Vinny, let's go to football tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took over with hockey.
No,
That's okay.
You're good.
Oh, listen. It's betting. It's kind of a niche sport, though, right? If you follow it, you're going to find your spots. Again, yesterday was an excellent spot for the Ducks. So if you look at what's happening, if you follow it, you're going to be able to pick your spots. So, but as far as tonight. Yeah, I'm sure Chris Andrews was telling you it's bouncing back and forth between 3.5 and 3, right? Laying 3 with the Chargers on the road, taking 3.5 with the Jets. Although we've been at 3.5 for most of the time here over the last 36 hours. Total on a game 41. So open 3 has gone to 3.5. So we'll see. We'll see where it takes us here. I'm not so sure this is going to be a coaching clinic. That to tell you the truth. So that's something that you probably want to put into your handicap.
Do you have a lean? Are you?
Well, I think again, playing the number. If you're looking at the Jets at home, who look, if they're going to make a statement, and then of course. You look at their schedule, and they come here. They're at Allegiant next week.
Yes,
against,
and a cast of thousands of Jets fans from the New York.
Well, especially there was a lot of. I knew there were a lot of Jet fans coming into the season, and let's face it, we see a lot of visiting fans here at Allegiant, right? Because of the packages that get put together, the hotel, the airfare, and the game packages that get put together. So when Rodgers got hurt, there was kind of a lull in that for this game coming up this week. I have to tell you, I think if the Jets win this game tonight, there's going to be a pretty high demand by Jets fans and folks making their way across the country.
I know I'll be there on Sunday night.
There you go, buddy.
I may see you.
Yeah, actually,
I said may. I'm not.
You're not going to believe this. Chris and I were talking about this yesterday, and I was all set to go, and then I remember my wife reminded me, I've got a wedding on Sunday.
Oh no!
My cousin's. I got a cousin getting married. I'm like,
in football season on a Sunday?
What are you doing?
Oh,
cuz how did this happen? And her. So this is my cousin's daughter. So my second cousin. Her husband's a huge Jet fan. I'm like, Danny, what are you doing?
You can't risk.
How do you let this happen?
You can't schedule a wedding on a Sunday in football season.
So
it's not good.
I mean, it's
not good.
No, it's right at 3:00 on top of it.
Well, yeah, you might have to use your phone.
I might have to say, excuse me a second. I have to go make a phone call and never come back.
Yeah, well,
that's happened to Vinny at a few family functions over the years.
Before we say bon voyage for tonight, by the way, of course, Punchlines with Frank Nicotero tomorrow noon, Wednesday noon, Thursday noon, Friday noon. We're back on Thursday at 3. College basketball today.
Yes.
800,000 games essentially.
Yeah, I
today.
think the season starts, and I think we go right into March Madness after,
right into it.
Right after today. What's going on with this Oregon game?
Oregon won and covered. They won by 11.
Covered. Okay, well they bet Oregon today. They laid the 6 with Oregon. Great slate. Look, this is a time of year very professional betting oriented, as Alex I'm sure has pointed out. This is the time of year where it's not as much the public is, because the public is still very much involved with college and pro football, especially today where you've got a Monday night football game it's very attractive. But pros are look at we've got a book 362. There are 362 board teams. Think about that. Again, you don't have to bet them all, but you can find some spots.
The leans are 1-0. Just so you know, Alex.
Very good.
We're 1-0 on the
Did you
season.
lean Oregon?
Of course I did.
Oh, well, there you go, buddy.
Of course I did.
Are we tracking the lean? Is there a lean tracker?
No, I mean,
Yes, there is.
Alex is keeping track, but the leans are 1-0. Oregon overnight.
right.
I told you, 5 overnights. I thought it was good. Get up this morning at 6.5. I'm like, nah, no thanks.
I will.
I'm okay, and they cover all numbers.
Yep.
I will say this: that the pro bettors, they look to take points at this time of year. But one of my most respected pros laid Purdue 19.5. Laid Purdue against Samford. He laid three favorites. Laid 18.5 with Providence, and laid 27.5 with Duke against Dartmouth.
Purdue is up 22-4. 8 minutes in. Samford is a nice hearty 1 of 12 from the field.
Right.
It's probably not good enough against. against
My dear
Purdue.
friend Rich Baccelleri. Those were his 3 favorite plays today.
Okay.
Richie's got one of the better college basketball opinions that I know.
It might be the best college basketball opinion I know, in all honesty. Vinny, pleasure as always. Alex, good work as always. Shout out crew. Jerry, Ryan, Ann, doing great work. By the way, Vinny, we decided as a group to wait till Saturday to try to beat you guys again.
Listen, you might change. There's a lot of times and a lot of games, and I'm sure you'll have several more leans between now and Saturday. I'm very confident that
the several leans that end up not being played, but will end up being probably plus 100 units by the end of the year,
Yes.
probably. When it's all said and done. All right, regardless. All right, I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White, Vinny Magliulo. We'll see you again on Thursday, 3 o'clock here on this show. Good luck to everyone who places a wager tonight on either the 100 college basketball games or the NFL game tonight.